Howdy, howdy, howdy. Nearly Senior Citizen here. Greetings, boys, girls, and all of our non-binary friends, and welcome to this, a brand new day. Definitely a thumbs up on that. Thank you for watching. Definitely a good thing. It is definitely appreciated. A definite thumbs up on that. One of the quick things I wanted to talk about before I went into anything else was this happened last night, and I started thinking about cultural relevance and all this and why this was funny, because I got home from my walkies and I put some stuff away because I bought yogurt and I put it away in the kitchen, because don't want it to go bad, you store it where it's cold. And so I was coming out and up the stairs to come up here and relax after walkies, and my housemates were watching TV. One of the shows they like to watch are these ghost type story things, and there's a Zach, whatever his last name is, who has at least one ghost adventures type thing where they go on and they investigate haunted houses and such. And as I was going up the stairs, he was talking about investigating a Robert Kennedy murder. And as they were talking about the Robert Kennedy murder, he had to stress as a disclaimer for young people that Robert Kennedy didn't commit the murders or murder. Robert Kennedy was murdered. And the fact that you have to stress that just struck me. Cognitive dissonance, the juxtaposition of that, cultural relevance. It just, I started laughing. Not at the murder, but just the whole situation. Because, cultural relevance is important. And for young people, stuff that happened like when I was a child is not culturally relevant at all. And cultural relevance is important. So when he had to explain who this person was, that made sense. You have to get your cultural relevance. Cultural relevance fading and not being the same for each generation is not a bad thing. That happens. And that's okay. Having to explain who people and things are. Sometimes it strikes me a little weird, but then I can also understand it as well. One of the big things about modern life in a developed country is there is so much. You are being constantly bombarded with everything from advertisements to entertainment, everything to keep you distracted. There is so much. And when you have so much, it's hard to look at the past and remember the past when you've got to deal with all this out here in the present. And so understanding that the young can't really connect with all this older stuff because maybe they didn't even hear about it, or if they did, it was just, I've graduated school, and that's all fine, that's well and good, but it's just a weird feeling for these people like me who are older. JFK was assassinated a year after I was born, and then there was Robert Kennedy being murdered, all these things, and it's the past. It's understandable that you wouldn't remember it or even be told about it, or if you were, why it wouldn't stick. Which also, as I was saying, ties into the thing that I find weird, but I shouldn't, because there's so much with the cultural relevance issue, is I watch a lot of reaction channels, music and movies. There are people that are watching movies for the first time that was made after the year 2000. And for me, that's like, I don't understand why you wouldn't have seen that. But then if you were born in the year 2000, it would have been like, why don't I know about and understand all the movies that were released in the year that I was born? Well, there's so much. So it's understandable, but it just seems odd sometimes. Like, there's people that are watching Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters 2. That one I can understand, but it's like, that one really seems weird. But then times change. Things happen. Cultural relevance is only important to the people that were of that time. So it's just a weird feeling, and having to explain and give disclaimers to the past is an odd feeling as well. So it just made me laugh, and I started thinking about cultural relevance again. Which is fine. It is all good. Especially since there was this one person I watched that watched the Wizard of Oz movie for the first time. One of the things that when you don't understand more of what happens in the past, you don't get what's going on in the movies. There was a lot of overacting in the movie, of course, because it was young movie-making times. Things were still being refined. But a lot of the things that were being done, especially the overacting, the over-exaggerated stuff, was in the Oz area, and it was of like the Munchkins and all these things, and it's like, well, that was also a direct point being done. Maybe they didn't even consciously decide to do it, but it came across to show how different they are from, you didn't see that from Dorothy. You didn't see that from any of the other characters that were before things went Technicolor. So it was a directorial decision to show the disparity between Oz and otherwise. Again, whether it was a conscious decision made, who knows, but that's what it shows. And to see someone not get that because it was in 1939. Why should you, unless you are a direct hobbyist or someone who's really an enthusiast, know about what the time was and what was culturally appropriate and what they were doing? Why would you? So after all this time, it's just weird choices that people don't understand. And that's fine. That's good. I mean, it's not good, but you lose all these cultural contexts. And that happens. Life is life. There were some other things that happened in my life, of course. I went walkies. I tried to go walkies earlier last night so that I could do some recording. And it got darker earlier than I thought. So I did some recording out on the railroad tracks because there's two roads to get out of Shelton, southern Shelton into downtown Shelton. Literally only two roads. If you don't take those two roads, you have to go all the way around on the highway and such like that to get into downtown Shelton. And so both of those roads are well traveled, a lot of cars, very noisy. One of them is less used and less noisy, but it's also, I'd have to walk. The route I walked to get from southern Shelton into downtown Shelton, that whole route would be the distance just so I could go to the other road into downtown Shelton. So it's just very loud. And down southern Shelton, where I live, is hilly, it's mountainous, and it's largely urban and suburban. So it's a lot of people's houses, and I don't just want to show people's houses, so I try not to record in just places where there's houses. If there's other things like a school or industry or some business, I'll record around there. But if it's just housing, then no, nobody deserves that. So that's why I don't show a lot of southern Shelton unless I'm going off into a specific place like trails and the like. But I went recording and I tried, but it was really dark, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to. But one of the things I'm going to talk about really quick, that was on the video, just in case I don't use it, is because there is a fairly large homeless population in Shelton, and because we have a lot of forest blocks, and the forest blocks are just areas that are set aside as trees grow, bushes, might be a creek that runs through it, such like that. There's a lot of just, especially in southern Shelton, because it's so hilly, that are just forest blocks. And then there's houses that dig into them on the sides. But people need to live somewhere. And when you're homeless, you've got to live somewhere, as I just mentioned. And so a lot of people live inside of the forest block areas. So once it starts getting late afternoon, you don't really want to go off into the trails because you're going to start walking into people's homes out there. So once it starts getting dark, I can't do any trail stuff because number one, like I said, I don't want to wander into people's homes, and number two, I don't know what it's like in other places, but unfortunately in Shelton, a lot of our homeless population is either number one, drug addicted, or number two, have serious mental issues that are not being treated, and so and you never can tell. I went out walking like a couple months back, I think it was, on one of my walkies, and on one of the blocks that I walk on, there's a very, very friendly cat, and this cat was walking in such a way that I was just looking at the cat because it was walking to a person sitting in the road, and it was every step with this one foot. It went meow, 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 because it wanted to get petted. But it was only when I got closer, I was listening to what was happening with the people up above. Some person had come running down the street from Upper Shelton, Northern Shelton to downtown Shelton, had come running down that road, attacked this one guy, and then kept running. About a minute or two before I came by, came through where this road was, attacked the person who was sitting in the road, attacked someone else, and then ran off. So it's not safe, and no one was like stabbed or beaten or anything, but it was like, oh, you don't want to run across that on trails in the dark. So I'm doing my best on that. And then I have also been thinking, because I can't force my creativity, and often I start blinking on to other things, because even though I am being medicated for my ADHD, I believe I am under-medicated, which is life. One of the things I had thought about doing before I was writing about it here, there's a radio station, WKNLV, that I want to do, where it's a small town, small radio station. They're in a valley somewhere, and it's just a weird little place. But it's a lot of work, and my batteries rarely charge up fully, and it's just, it's been heavy and hard. But I was trying to think on that setting last night, and I've fully come up with a more integrated setting with this place in our world and not, because when you come up and out of the valley, there's two general directions that you can drive. If you sort of lean to the left, you go out. If you lean to the right, you go in. Now, when you go outward, you generally slowly end up with places that end up in a normal place. Our place, somewhere in our United States. It's never the same place, and yet it kind of is, because there's a weirdness is these people are connected to the internet, they still get mail. There's normalcy to the point that it takes them about a minute to walk to get to the rural mailbox drop, and that's where they get their mail. It's a couple miles, but it only takes a minute to get there, to walk. And then they grab their stuff and then they leave. It's a weird connection between these two places. And even though it's a wired connection with their internet, it's still odd. Unfortunately, since it's our world, a lot of people think that they're the people that are making TikTok videos in this place and all that think that everyone's just trying to do a cheap like Night Vale knockoff top place type thing, since the Night Vale podcast exists in this world, since it's ours. But if you drive inward, of course, you eventually can get to this one crossroad that will lead to like the western borough of the Crimson Kingdom. And off, if you go out to the west, you'll get to the Associated Sovereign Free States. And even those places will order stuff and get shipments of iPhones and the like. But largely, they'd make their own stuff. And so there's all the little places, like this little town there that I haven't come up with a name yet. I think it's like Oak Ridge. And then they talk about places like, I figured there's like one person who's chatting with somebody else. They've gotten into a friendship online, like YouTube videos. And it's like, oh, so this is a real place? I thought it was just a joke. And it's like, no, I've driven over to Apple Rock. And it's like, Apple Rock? I watched this one channel about that place. And so they talk with other people. They do things out there in the real world, but of course the stuff that they normally think of as normal isn't, but they're still connected to us in the outside. Deeper in you go, the more they're just connected to their own things. So. And of course, when you're in that town, it's only 3 days a month. It's not hard. Don't look at the full moon. It doesn't matter what the TikTok challenge is. Don't. There's a whole generation of kids that grew up without fathers because of that. So please don't look at the moon when it's full. And I've opened up 24 hours worth of comments in my community tab, and there's even fewer comments than before, so yay on that. But I'm going to go through and thank each person for having left me a comment in the past 24 hours. If I mispronounce a username, no disrespect is intended, even though I count American Sign Language on the fingers of this hand. With my depression, fibro, and more, it's hard for me to remember anything at all. And of course, if you've watched this far, thank you so very much. It is appreciated to no end. So we have Confused L29, always good to see you in the comments. Ulrika Nishama, thank you, sort of. And then there's Johnny K. I'm going to have to look up those things after I get myself a tool set, so thumbs up. Beth the Fam, thumbs up. We have Wyeth, greatly appreciating it. There's Colin Reisenauer, greatly appreciated. Pedro, thumbs up and thank you. Dan Lee Gildersleeve, thumbs up. And Sponge Boob, greatly appreciated. Ice Damon, thumbs up and thank you. And that is it. 10 people that left me comments in the last 24 hours. Anybody at all leaving me comments is very good. Thumbs up and thank you. It is appreciated to no end. And with my hands in the air, I don't know what device you're watching this on, so I do not know where the video description is. But inside of that, I have links to all of my channels, so if you could check them out, that would be cool. Also in there is a link to my Patreon, I forgot what the word was, my patreon.com thing. So if you could become a patron, that would be very cool, like one of these beautiful and awesome people, because they are very beautiful, very awesome. They help keep a roof over my head, food in my belly, food in my pets' bellies, and pain control in my system. Thank you so very much. If you'd like to help me out without becoming a patron, in the video description, there's links to my PayPal. If you could do that, that would be cool. And if you'd like to help me out without sending money at all, there's a link to my Amazon wish list. So hopefully I've got that updated. Oh, executive dysfunction. Here we go. I got lost for a minute. I derailed myself with that. Now, do not feel obligated. I do not feel entitled. And if you cannot or you simply do not donate, I take all good wishes and I deposit them in the bank of my heart where I draw interest. So thank you very much. And if you could toss me a like, I appreciate all the positive validation I get from my existence. Definite thumbs up. And of course, if you could hit the notification bell on the subscription button, that would be very cool. Thank you to no end. And of course, once again, thank you if you have watched this far. It is appreciated. I get very few views. People watch to the end very rarely, but for any of you that do, thumbs up and thank you. It is appreciated. So of course, try to stay positive, stay balanced, stay creative. It is a good thing. And of course, with the covfefe bug raging around the world in the United States, please, if you don't have to go out, don't. If you do, please wear a mask, wash your hands, maintain your social distancing, try not to touch your face, get vaxxed if you can, get a booster when it's available, because the United States has decided that everyone's going to get all this stuff before we help everyone else. So if you don't get a booster, they're going to see that as vaccine hesitancy and double down on it before they go help everyone else. So just get the booster so that they can go out and start helping everyone else. So, you take care. Have a great day today. I will see you on the flip side, and quite frankly, that is a very good thing.